was the fall of my junior year at Miami University. There was one specific run that I remember. It was a 10.5-mile run, and after stretching, getting it kicked off, it felt like a knife was like carving my bone. And I just kind of pushed through. It was like, hey, I've done this before. And when I finished the run, I made it upstairs to the room that I was staying in that summer, and I hit the floor. I passed out, blacked out, just completely from pain. My buddy witnessed it and was like, hey, you were out for, definitely a couple seconds. This is serious. And we kind of just still pushed it off. The worst case scenario, I thought it was like a meniscus tear. So I'd be up or arthritis or something like that. That was like, okay, it's not going to really be a huge impact on my life. And met with a family physician who's an orthopedic surgeon. Went over to his house, and they did MRIs previously, and that was a Friday night that he welcomed our family in to tell us the diagnosis. And he presented the news to us, and it really was, wow, what is happening? What are these words? I can't comprehend what he's communicating to me. You're telling me I have cancer? There's, bone cancer, a tumor, chemotherapy, surgery, all these words. It was just like, oh my gosh, what is happening? Stopped everything, withdrew from school immediately, packed up stuff and moved home. And, your life changes and, on the drop of a dime, and started surgeries very quickly. Pretty traditional schedule for me was like 2 weeks in the hospital, 2 weeks out, throughout my whole year. But specifically that year, it was like 6 weeks of chemotherapy out of the 10. And it was pretty intense stuff. They are suited up. They walk into your room and hang this chemotherapy and put it in your port. And it just was like this, like immediately, it just hit my body, and I just thought it was going to be a physical battle. And this journey, more so anything than was a spiritual battle, but was a mental battle, emotional battle, because I was so mentally fogged. It's almost like if anybody's ever had a concussion, it's like a severe concussion. And I was numb to a lot of truth or reality or consciousness. And so it was very confusing. I will note that, I was a very private person. I grew up in a family of 4. My parents loved the Lord. We all grew up in a Christian household. I was kind of the black sheep in some ways of the family, just from my personal sinful decisions in middle school and high school. But the Lord radically changed my life in college, those initial couple years, and that was foundational for this journey, this lifelong journey with cancer that I have been on and will continue to be on. And I would have fallen flat on my face. And it would have been very traumatic had the Lord not radically changed my life prior to the diagnosis of cancer in 2010. So there was much growth, still significant immaturity and sinful patterns in my life at that time, but much growth because of the Lord reshaping my desires for Him, transforming my life, giving me a desire for the Word, for community, for godly discipleship. And those things were the foundation that the Lord used to build. And then, really through cancer, ripped away everything else that wasn't already, honoring and worshipful to Him. So they take from my mid-thigh femur down to my knee, take my whole knee out, and then they implant rods into my tibia and into my femur. And have a whole new, so, it's this long of metal in my leg, unbelievable surgery, and took the cancer out. And the chemotherapy, the goal from the oncologist perspective is that the chemotherapy would kill that cancer up to 90%, over 90%. And when we received the news that it was less than 15%, not good news, not good statistics. So you feel obviously feel very defeated, you're confused. And so we increased chemotherapy. Instead of a 10-week regimen, we opted in for the 6-month regimen, added 2 more really aggressive drugs. So it's now a 5-drug regimen that's pretty brutal. Reached out to the church that we were involved in, the community that they were involved in at the time. And someone started these prayer bracelets for Jared. And I remember specifically, I told my sister late one night, I think it was a Friday night. On Sunday, they had communicated to, the community groups and church members. And then I think on Monday or Tuesday, somebody had made and shipped out all these Pray for Jared bracelets. And by Thursday, the fog was gone. And so that was the most clear moment in my entire life up to that point that prayer works. That prayer to our amazing, mighty God is actually working in these scenarios. And that was a massive amount of hope in a time of, real significant struggle and pain and isolation. And then, so we did 6 months of chemotherapy, pretty brutal. And then we finish in that fall, and technically cancer free. We go, we go 7 years, almost 7 years, and had a little recurrence in my lung, which is where my cancer comes back. And praise the Lord, it was just tiny little one spot, quick surgery, and continue to monitor it. But that was a huge blessing that I was relying on my family for so much. And I moved home, and I was out of this Christian community that's the only community that I really knew where my faith had thrived. And so moving home was a challenge in itself, to say now I have to walk with Christ in front of my family, which is something I've never done. And that was an immediate hard battle of okay, well, I'm going to choose to read my Bible even when my family's never seen me do that before. Or I'm going to choose to stay in my room and pray and spend time with the Lord. They saw through, my writings, or we would have prayer time together. And that was a big shift in our family. And then through that, the Lord provided a lot of healing from broken relationships, internal with our family. And then was able to, the Lord just blessed me beyond my wildest dreams with the family that I was born into. My sister, both my sisters, my brother, and my mom and dad sacrificially loved me that year, and still to this day, I've never deserved. And so I'm so grateful for their involvement and their impact on my spiritual journey, but also my physical and mental journey as well.